And I will say thank you all for coming this early Tuesday rainy morning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lisa with Recruiting for Growth. And Connie, again, I want to thank you for doing this. And then I'm going to just hand it over to you.
Okay. So good morning, everybody. My name's Connie Fisher. I think most of you know me, but just in case, I'm the Director of Mental Health Promotions at Mental Health America. I've been there for 7 years. I was in private practice for about 26 years before that. And I also taught at WashU for about 7 years and at the college level for about 14 years. So that's my background. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I do work for Mental Health America. I do want to tell you a little bit about us because we do have some resources available to you. So Mental Health America's mission is to promote mental health and improve the care and treatment of people who live with a mental illness. And we do that through advocacy, education, and service. This is the education component. So we really believe in preventative care, and we know everybody can do something to improve their mental health. And that's what these seminars are geared toward. And I can do these for any organization. So if you're interested in that, I'll give you my contact information at the end. Then we have a representative payee program. This is a program for people who are 18 and older who are on disability for a mental illness, who want to stay independent but can't seem to pay their bills responsibly. What happens is their disability check gets deposited with us and we pay their bills. I think we have 165 people in the program. We're working up toward 180. 2 people run that program. You can imagine paying 165 to 180 people's phone bills, electric bills, gas bills, and keeping them stable. For most of those people, it's the first time they're off the streets and into permanent housing. So it's very stabilizing. Excuse me. And Darren, who runs the program, is just got the patience of a saint. He's wonderful. Then we have a Bridges program. This is a peer-to-peer education program where one of our staff who lives with a mental illness teaches people with mental illnesses to take better care of themselves. And she has an 8-week and a 5-week program. And she can also teach them to become teachers, and they can get a little stipend salary from that. That's a statewide program, and she's always reaching 200% of her goals, which really makes me mad because I never reach 200% of my goals. But she's phenomenal. We also are advocating for people with mental illnesses all the time at Jeff City and nationally, because we're part of a national Mental Health America. So we go and fight for things that probably aren't going to make the paper. Right now, we're still working on parity. So according to the national parity laws on insurance, if your insurance covers 80% of your physical health and covers mental health, it has to cover 80% of your mental health. However, in Missouri, nobody's watching that, and we want somebody watching it. So that you don't have to go to each insurance company and file a grievance a different way with each company. You can go to one location in Missouri that holds those insurance companies accountable. So that's just kind of some brief information. Just want to tell you a couple of things on the website. Our website's brand new, so go check it out. We have free screenings. So if you or somebody you love or know needs a screening for a mental illness, this is a good place to get them. We have screenings for anxiety disorder, depression, bipolar disorder, PTSD, eating disorder, ADHD, alcoholism, just several of them. They take about 5 minutes to take. You can print your result and take it to your doctor. And we're finding if you take it to your doctor, you have a 40% higher chance of getting treated for that disorder. We're finding that's a national program. And so we're finding nationally that our anxiety and depression levels are up since COVID. Not a big surprise there. Also, there is a place to get help with paying for prescriptions. So if you know anybody struggling to pay for prescriptions, there's a list of companies and their contact information. There's also a link for how to search your local pharmacies to see who has your medication the cheapest. So that's a nice little resource, and just lots of different resources on mental health. So please go check it out at some point. So today we're going to talk about stress. So can you all, you can unmute now. Can you tell me what are your stressors right now?
Certainly
the interactive part.
Certainly the pandemic is providing stress for folks on a number of levels, from just the fear of going out and to the grocery store and whatnot, to the worries about family members, particularly older family members. So I think certainly the pandemic has got to be a big issue related to stress right now for many folks.
Yep. Anyone else?
I would say
Isolation.
Isolation?
The holidays are coming. That's kind of a stressor.
Yeah. Different kind of holidays too.
Mhm.
I would say just trying to juggle working from home and managing the number of people. I mean, I have 23 people that I have to manage remotely, and making sure that not only are they functioning in their job, but that they're in a very good mental state. Because a
Mhm.
lot of them are parents that are trying to homeschool kids. And I feel like I'm carrying the weight of everyone on my shoulders.
Yeah. We'll talk about a little bit about that. Happy to come do a seminar for that group if you'd like. Anybody else? Anything else?
Well, for me, in addition to isolation, lack of physical touch. I'm a high touch kind of person, and to live alone, to have limited contact with my loved ones. I've had to learn how to produce my own oxytocin, and a friend of mine showed me how, and by rubbing really vigorously down my arms. But and I guess that's another stressor, is adaptability. I've been forced to adapt a lot more than normal.
Yeah, me too. I didn't see you there, Sherry. Hi, Sherry.
Hi, Connie.
Anybody else? Okay, that's probably enough. So our stress response, and so this is my favorite definition, our physical, emotional, and mental response to any perceived threat. Perceived's really important there. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So real or imagined. But I want you to know it affects your entire person. A lot of times people think stress just affects ourselves mentally, but it does a lot to your body. So we're going to talk about that mind-body connection here because it's pretty important, especially right now. This is the fight or flight response. I'm sure you've all seen this before. So basically the fight or flight response's purpose is to give you the energy to physically fight your enemy or physically flee from your enemy. However, almost all the stressors you just gave me are not stressors that you can physically fight or physically flee from. But your body doesn't know the difference and your brain doesn't know the difference. So anytime you go into a stress response, it gets you ready for that. So it increases blood pressure, increases heart rate, increases breathing rate, your pupils dilate, and it kicks in a couple of hormones. Norepinephrine is what we know, and epinephrine are what we know as adrenaline, and then cortisol. And we're going to talk a lot about cortisol today. Cortisol is known as the stress hormone. It has some good points and it has some bad points. I like to point out here that if we exaggerate this fight or flight response, what we have is a panic attack, okay? A panic attack is simply an exaggerated fight or flight response to an imagined fear. Nice thing about this fight or flight response is that you can reverse it, and you can also reverse a panic attack. So the way you reverse the fight, so fight or flight is kicked in by the sympathetic nervous system. The way I remember this is sympathetic starts with S and so does stress. So as soon as you get stressed, your sympathetic nervous system kicks in. Your parasympathetic nervous system starts with P and goes with peace, reverses it. And the way to kick in the parasympathetic nervous system is to breathe correctly. Now, most of the time when I tell people take a deep breath, they give me the doctor deep breath. I'm going to get myself on the screen a little more here. So what the doctor deep breath looks like, if you look at me on the screen, is, okay, I don't want to see shoulders go up when you deep breathe. That is not a correct breath, okay? The correct breath is belly out. So everybody do a fast yawn for me. See how your belly just naturally went out? That's a correct breath. So if you can't remember the technique I'm about to teach you, you can always yawn. And what do other people do if you yawn?
It's contagious.
They yawn. It's contagious. Why? Because of mirror neurons. The only mental disorder that won't do that is autism, because they don't have enough mirror neurons. So what you want to do is we're going to breathe in for a count of 5 with our belly out. We're going to hold for a count of 5, and then we're going to breathe out and spell peace, as in peaceful, not piece of cake. Unmute yourselves. I want to hear you spell peace, because it's better if you're saying it out loud. Otherwise, the air doesn't get out your mouth. Okay. So ready? Breathe in, belly out. 2, 3, 4, 5, hold, 2, 3, 4, 5, P, E,
E,
A,
A,
C.
C, E.
Go out a little farther. Do 3 sets of those, you will reverse this fight or flight response. If you go right back into what if thinking, what if I can't pay my bills? What if I can't, what if I get COVID? If you go into right back into what if thinking, because the brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined fear, you'll go right back into the fight or flight response. So I have 2 rules about what ifing. No what ifing, really hard to do, or answer the question. What if I can't pay my bills? Then I will make small payments, negotiate with the company. Once you have a plan, you calm down, okay? So remember this. Now, the more you practice this breathing technique, the better you are at it when you need it, okay? I like to practice it at stoplights. Stoplights, you got like 2 or 3 minutes to practice your breathing, or any other thing you're doing. Some people are practicing breathing and gratefulness when they're washing their hands, because we're all washing our hands so much. So there's lots of, pair it with something so that you get in the habit of doing it on a regular basis. This makes a major difference. This sounds too simple, but breathing makes a big difference. It's really important. So I'm going to talk about how it affects all the different areas of you, how stress affects everything. And the first one is physical. Everything gets worse when you're stressed physically. Allergies, this is my allergy season. That's why you hear me kind of clearing my throat a lot. Allergies are worse when you're stressed. Almost all of these worsenings have to do with cortisol. High blood pressure, heart attack, and stroke, we've known for years, are associated with stress. And part of that is, if you think about the fight or flight response, it increases the heart rate, and it increases the blood pressure. And if you already have high blood pressure or heart condition, you are actually damaging your heart. You're causing wear and tear on the arteries. And obviously that's really easy to lead to a stroke and a heart attack. Migraines, also we've known for years, are connected to stress. Almost always are worse when there's stress that's not managed. Arthritis is worse when you're stressed because of the cortisol. It causes inflammation. Arthritis is inflammation. Diabetes, you can be eating right and exercising right if you have diabetes. And if you're not controlling your stress, that cortisol is going to have your blood sugar all over the place. Okay? Mentally, when we're stressed, we have overriding pessimistic thoughts. We're kind of doom and gloom thinkers. We get preoccupied, can't stop thinking about something. You have racing thoughts. Your thoughts jump from thought to thought to thought. And you might actually see this in your behavior. You might go into your office and think, oh, I need to change that paper in the printer. And you go to get the paper, and then you notice that the trash needs to be emptied. And you take the trash into the kitchen, you notice a dish needs to be washed, and you haven't done any of it. You also have difficulty making a decision, particularly if you've made decisions all day in your work area of your home life. You may find that you don't want to decide what's for dinner. Sleep problems. You sleep too much or you can't sleep. You know which one you are. Thought distortion. This is where, like, for example, if you spill your coffee on yourself this morning and you go, okay, the whole day is going to be bad. That's thought distortion, where you're exaggerating things. And then memory loss. And this memory loss is short-term memory loss. Why did I come into this room? What's that word I'm looking for? Where's my keys? Where's my phone, right? It's short-term memory loss. And the reason that happens is the cortisol causes, in your system too long, causes the hippocampal cells to die. And that's where most short-term memory loss is stored. Now, the good news in humans is that those cells do grow back when the stressor's over. So yay for us. A lot of people think when they're stressed, they have Alzheimer's, and really what they have is short-term memory loss due to stress. I like to point out here too that pessimistic thinking, preoccupation, difficulty making a decision, sleep disturbance, and thought distortion are all symptoms of depression. So there is this diathesis stress model of mental illness. If you inherited the genetic predisposition for a disorder, say depression, and the right stressors kick in, it turns the gene on and leaves the gene on, doesn't go back off. So managing your stress is crucial to preventing mental illness, and if you have one, to coping better, because the less you're coping with stress, the worse your symptoms will be if you have a mental illness. And then emotionally, stress can affect us. And you usually lead with one of these three emotions. You can have all three. So I want to point that out, but usually you'll lead with one. And the reason this is important is so that you start to recognize, whoa, I'm getting stressed. This is my lead emotion, okay? The first one, and none's better than the others, by the way, okay? Anger, feeling like you can't resolve an issue that's out of your control, which most of us are feeling about COVID right now, right? My husband leads with anger. I always could tell when he was having a bad day, when he was working, if I'd call him and he'd answer the phone like this, what? Right? And he knew it was me. It wasn't like he didn't know it was me, right? That was not personal. That was, he's having a bad day, okay? Because that's what he leads with. I lead with anxiety. Anxiety is, worrying, kind of ruminating kind of thing. And then hopelessness. You've just acquiesced. You've just kind of given up, okay? So how many of you think you lead with anger? Raise your hands. I can see you. Okay, and how many with anxiety? That's almost everybody. Okay, and hopelessness. Okay. All right, and again, it's not right or wrong. It's just a way for you to recognize, oh, I'm starting to get stressed. I need to take some actions. Okay, some situations are inherently stressful and there's nothing you can do about it. COVID is one of those things. We have a whole situation that the only thing we can do about is choose our response, which is pretty true of a lot of things. Acceptance is a really good stress management tool. But there are a lot of other things, traffic, the political environment right now, right? The social justice issues going on right now. We've got like a perfect storm of several things happening that are extremely stressful right now. Finances and the economy, another thing that's you can only choose your response to. So it's really important when we look at these things that we don't have control over, that we manage it well. And one of the things we have control over is our perception. So this tiger's up here for a reason. So here's my tiger story. Imagine this little girl is talking to her Aunt Sally, and she says to Aunt Sally, imagine a tiger walks in the room. He's growling at you, he's pawing at you, he's got you in a corner, he's going to take a big bite. What would you do? And Aunt Sally goes, I don't know, what would you do? And the little girl says, I stop imagining. Stop imagining. Think about all the things you imagine are going to happen. 85% of what you worry about never happens. This has been researched and documented, and the research has been repeated over and over again, keeps coming up with that stat. 85% of what you worry about never happens. Wow. If you're going to spend your cortisol in your system and mess up your body and all those things, you might as well be worrying about the things that are more likely to happen, right? So reminding yourself that those aren't as likely to happen, and that a lot of that response is causing you damage. So quit imagining worst case scenarios. It's not good for you. And we'll talk about some ways to do that. Any questions so far? I'll stop here. Comment.
I just wanted to throw in fires and hurricanes.
Just so much happening. It's just every time you see another one, you're like, yeah. You were just kind of acquiescing because we just are overwhelmed with what's happening, right? Okay. So I'm going to talk about 3 types of stress, because there is good stress. It's called eustress. And this stress is helpful. It's kind of the thing that makes you meet that deadline, right? It's can motivate you. It quickens your pulse. It usually has a benefit. There's usually some benefit to it. And it often involves relationships. So for example, a good stressor might be getting married. It's stressful, but it's a good thing, right? Having a baby falls into this category. Getting a new job falls into this category. You're grateful you got a new job, but now you got to learn the new job. And now you're a little stressed every time you go in to learn the new job, right? But it also motivates you. One of the things you can do about bad stress is increase your good stress, okay? And this again is making yourself challenge yourself in some way, and I'll share that in a second. Acute stress is what most people think of as stress. This is something that needs a quick response, but once you've taken care of it, it's a monkey off your back. So let's say your kitchen sink is leaking all over your floor. You call a plumber, you get it fixed, it's done. Okay, that's a quick response, something you need to take care of. When we can put these off though, as humans, we do, okay? For example, let's say you have a slow leak in your tire, but you keep putting off getting it fixed. And every time you get in your car, you go, is that a thump, thump, thump? Is that a thump, thump, thump? Am I gonna make it? Am I gonna make it? Am I gonna make it? Right, and this is a way that we create stress. Another one is procrastination. When we put things off and we have to do them at the last minute, we've created bad stress. And bad stress is chronic, ongoing, everyday stressor that you usually don't have control over. And this is COVID. This is a lot of the things going on that we just talked about, the fires, the flooding, the hurricanes, the just everything right now. So this stress is the one that kicks in the cortisol for too long, because this is ongoing every day. When that cortisol is in your system too long, it causes an immune system drop. People, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We do not need an immune system drop, right? And this is documented all over the place. If you just look at any work situation you've been in where there's a certain period of or time of the year where you're stressed for nonprofits, it's fundraising. When we get to our big gala, which we had to do really weird this year, we have big stress. Okay, everybody in this office has a cold. Everybody. If I can't tell you how many accounting firms I've gone to do stress management at tax season, because they all get sick at tax season. Why? Because of the stress. Okay, so we, particularly the more stressed we are, like we are right now, the better care we need to take of ourselves, and the more likely we are to kind of put it off. Okay. If you don't take care of these acute stresses, they turn into chronic stresses. So we really want to take care of those acute stresses as soon as possible. Get that monkey off your back. Quit putting off that thing you need to do. Get it done. Get it off your back. Okay. So what do we do about it? Okay. The first one is increase the amount of good stress you have. And you can do that by developing relationships. Now, right now, this takes a big effort. My rule about relationships is in order to have one, you must relate. Okay. You have to connect to the person in some way. And so right now, and I think because of the need to see people, it is good to do them on Zoom or FaceTime, or go somewhere where you can social distance and be outside and see each other and do the air hug thing or the high five at a distance thing. It's because we seem to need to see faces. We're missing that 75% of communication that takes place non-verbally. That's why we like to see faces on Zoom and things like that. And don't forget regular relation. Don't forget your spouse. Don't forget your significant other. Don't forget your sister, your brother, your mother, your aunt, your friend that's in lockdown in a assisted living who can't get out and can't eat with anybody. Make sure that you're connecting with those people. And even if you call somebody once a day for 15 minutes, you'd be surprised what a big change that makes, what a difference that makes. Not just for work, but for enjoyment. Okay. Set some kind of goal. Any kind of goal is a good stress, right? So if you want to run a marathon, you've got to prepare for that. You've got to set that goal. If you're trying to finish a college course, same kind of thing. Gaining any kind of knowledge falls into this category. I'm going to be 67 next week. So if we want to gain knowledge that increases our brain cells, what we want to do is gain knowledge that's a little challenging for us. So if I took a psychology class, I probably wouldn't gain any neurons. But if I took Japanese or algebra, since I think the alphabet and the numbers should remain segregated, I would probably build some brain cells, okay? So you could do something that's a little challenging for you. Also, this is kind of back to that tiger story, manage your outlook. Really listen to what you're telling. What did I just say to myself that got my heart racing? What did I just say? This is never, are we using words right now with COVID like this is never going to end? We're always going to wear masks. It's never going to be back to normal. When we're using never and always, we're talking ourselves into doom and gloom. If we say, for now, I have to wear a mask, it implies temporary. It doesn't necessarily say when, but it implies temporary, okay? So thinking about, all viruses have eventually, we've dealt with them with vaccines and other ways, and we've eventually figured them out, kind of having faith in that. Also looking for the hidden potential benefit in a negative situation. This is a challenge when you're going through the negative situation, but the pearl is almost always in the oyster. Example I give is when I was in private practice, I was working with my mom, and she got diagnosed with 4th stage lung cancer. And this was about 20 years ago when they didn't have some of the great resources they have now for that. And was told she had a 5% chance of living 2 years. And my mother was very stubborn and she said, I'll be in that 5%. And she was. Now, when my mom got diagnosed, I prayed that her brain would go last because it tends to spread to the brain, and her brain went first. So I'm having a little spiritual crisis here, really pissed at God, because why did he take her brain first? I was with my mom when she died and she took a breath and let go. It was extremely peaceful. So the way I say goodbye to somebody who's died is I write a letter and I say, here's the memory, skills, talents I got from you that I'm keeping. Here's the memory, skills, talents I got from you that I'm not keeping. And then I say goodbye to the person and I read it to somebody I can cry in front of and I trust. So 6 months after my mom died, I'm reading this letter. And as I'm still complaining about her brain going first. And as I'm saying that, the light bulb goes off and I'm like, oh, if my mom knew she was dying, she would have struggled against it because of her stubbornness and she would not have gone peacefully. My answer, no, was her answer, yes. And my lesson was, it's not about you, Connie. It's not about you. And that lesson 20 something years ago from my mom was a lesson I use almost every week now. I still use that lesson. Oh, this is probably not about me. Everything's not about me, you know? And so could I have told you I'd get a lesson? No, my mom would love, by the way, that I got a lesson at the end of her life. But getting, looking for it, now I look for it. I look for, okay, what am I supposed to be learning here? What's the life lesson here that I'm missing? Particularly if things are repeated, I look for that life lesson. I keep having this happen to me. What am I supposed to be learning here, right? So look for that. You'll find that that's a really good way to manage stress. And also remind yourself of your strengths. Maybe you're very positive. Maybe you're really good at seeing the big picture. Maybe you're very good at detail. What is it that you could draw on for the things you're coping with that you're already good at that you're just not drawing on? You forget that I have the skill that I could use right here. So draw on your strengths. Some other things that are just, really good for your stress management. The first one is journaling. Anybody journal? Sherry, how's it help you?
For me, it's a form of prayer because oftentimes as I'm writing, I will get answers from that higher self.
Okay.
And the lower self needs to just have a place to ground all the negative emotions.
Right. That's exactly what the research says. So it's a really good place to kind of dump emotions. And when you do that, it's a little bit of a mindfulness exercise because you become the observer now of your journaling, right? And then you start to go, I've said that 3 times. Look at that pattern. Or mirror, mirror on the wall, I am my mother after all. So you start to see these things that remind you, and because you have that observer position, you can actually start to change some of those things. But just the ability to dump it is really important. And one of the problems with journaling is people put themselves on a have to do it every day. You don't have to do it every day. You can just do it when you're having a difficult time. You can have particular types of journals. There are journals for gratefulness. There are journals. I have had people do compliment journals. So every time you get a compliment, you put it in this journal that looks really pretty. And when you're having a bad day, you go read it. And all you can say to the compliments, by the way, is thank you. You're not allowed to say this old thing. You got to say thank you. Okay? If you're going to receive it, you have to say thank you. Set some time. Anybody need time for themselves? I don't know. We may not need it anymore because we're getting a lot of, I still need it. And I find when I don't take it, I take it in the middle of a conversation. You ever done this? Somebody's talking to you and you haven't been listening for 5 minutes and you're like, what are they saying? Because I went away, took my time. That's a signal to me that I didn't get time to myself. When you're a therapist, you get to say, tell me some more about that, which often means I wasn't listening. Do something you enjoy. We forget to put joy back in our lives. It sometimes has to get on the schedule for it to happen. So put some joy back. That right now, it might be stuff you're doing at home. I know it's not as fun. I'm really enjoying my walks and I am not into exercise. So I'm surprised. My walks now have become almost more about my mental health than about anything else. I just seem to need them more. Just something you enjoy. It could be gardening, it could be painting, it could be poetry, it could be reading, it could be your furry children, it could be your grandchildren, it can be anything. Just some kind of joy, and make sure you find it every day. So you want to accomplish something every day, that's work. You want to enjoy something every day, that's life. Okay. And then you want to do what you're going to do with commitment. Now here's the irony. I learned about commitment at Weight Watchers. So I went to Weight Watchers for the second January in a row. You know how you do, you're going to lose weight. It's January, right? And when you go to a Weight Watcher meeting, after the meeting, they call all the new people back to explain the program. So they're calling me back and I'm like, oh, you don't have to explain the program to me. I've been here before. And the leader goes, oh, you're going to finish? I was like, whoa, you hit me in the chest. It was like, finish? No. It's January. I committed to starting. I did not commit to finishing. I didn't know it till she asked me that, right? So committing to finish is totally different than committing to start. Committing to finish means, can you see yourself doing this for the long haul? Can you do this for 3 years? 3 years is a lifestyle change. If you can see yourself doing this for 3 years, one, it was a reasonable diet, or I wouldn't have been able to do that. Okay. And two, it's like, oh, I'm going to have to make some changes. I don't have to do it perfectly, but I need to do this 85 to 90% of the time. Okay. Then, okay, that's a commitment. So really, if when you're making a commitment to something, really evaluate whether you're just committing to start or you're committing to finish. Okay. Some work management strategy. Some of the stressors we cause ourselves, like leaving late, right? Being late to meetings, booking ourselves with so many Zoom meetings back to back that we can't get to the next one because somebody's talking over. So making sure that you're, you're not setting yourself up for stress. Create a balanced schedule. And one of the things I look at with this is looking at your energy management. So a lot of people will talk to you about time management, which 60 minutes is 60 minutes. There's really nothing you can do about it. But energy management makes a difference in what you get done in that 60 minutes. If you have a lot of energy in 60 minutes, don't you get a lot done? And if you have no energy and all day, don't you get nothing done? Okay, so I'm talking physical energy here. So you want to manage your energy, and most people's energy waxes and wanes throughout the day. So some people have high energy in the morning, some have high energy in the middle of the day, and some people have high energy in the evening or at night or afternoon. So kind of look at your routine and see where you are. Where's your high energy? What I'm suggesting is that you play with your schedule a little bit. Instead of time management, what you could do is energy manage. Put your most challenging tasks at your highest energy. You're going to do better. Okay. Also, if you're dealing with a challenging person, book them at your highest energy level, not your lowest. Now, obviously, you can't always do that because you're playing with their schedule too. But when you can, you want to do that. And you're going to find that makes a big difference in what you get done. Because let's face it, most people are doing 3 people's jobs right now. So if you want to get more done, you want to do that. Don't overcommit is really talking about your personal life. Don't say yes when you want to say no. Lisa was saying earlier, she thought she had to say yes to every Zoom meeting. You really don't. So choose, pick and choose. No is a complete sentence. You don't have to explain it. It's a complete sentence. Well, you make 24 cupcakes for the soccer team. No, done. Okay, it's really okay. Because when you say no, when you say yes, you're saying no to something else. And sometimes we don't take the time to weigh that, right? If I say yes to making 24 cupcakes and I have small children at home, I just lost 2 hours with my children, right? That may not be worth it to me unless they're helping me with the cupcakes, right? So really give yourself 15 minutes to check your schedule, which means think about the cost. Is this worth it to me? Is this where I want to spend my time? Because what we value is where we spend our time, okay? Also plan regular breaks. The research on breaks is interesting. So that the quality of break makes a difference. The research shows you need to get outside for 5 to 15 minutes for your break. 5 to 15 minutes outside gets you back on task and more focused, okay? If you can't get outside, like today, it's raining, you want to look outside. Can't look outside, you want to look at a nature painting. And then the next best thing would be something on your screen, a nature painting on your screen. I'm trying to get you away from your computers, okay? That really makes a difference. And then also, we can, according to research, focus for about 90 to 120 minutes. After that, if we push ourselves through that, we start making mistakes in what we're doing. And then we have to do it again, which is not productive. So every 90 to 120 minutes, even though it feels counterintuitive, stop, take a break, come back. You do not want to do your paperwork again. Okay, so make sure that you're giving yourselves those breaks. I'm telling you, these two things make a big difference. I have a whole seminar on productivity, but that's just a little bit of it. Any questions? Comments?
I just want to reinforce the concept of taking breaks because when I work with people who are in active workaholism and they're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and as soon as I get them to take a 5-minute break, all of a sudden they're more productive with less time. And once they see the evidence of that, they're willing to take more breaks and more breaks and more breaks. So it's a very powerful tool.
Yeah, and I like to tell people, hey, you don't get to the end of your life and say, woo, got all my email answered. I can die now, right? You go, was I loved? Did I love? Did I have a life? Did I contribute? Did I make a difference, right? So balancing that work and life, and that's obviously very difficult right now because it's all taking place in the same place, right? So something that is a challenge, and we need to have a life. We need to have a life. These are basic things we've all heard before: prioritize and organize. So you want to prioritize your tasks, what's the most important. And you can also do this with email, particularly if you're in your management. The person was talking about managing the 20 people. This might be helpful to you. So management of your emails can include, so I had a woman who worked for Anheuser-Busch, and she was in charge of the IT department. She got 100 emails a day. She was perfectionist, and she wanted to get all those done and her job, and it was not possible, right? So what we did is she sent out an e-blast, and she said, if you are just reporting, put report in the subject line. If you need my decision, put decision needed in the subject line. If it is, a quick question, put quick question. That's going to take 5 minutes. Put that in this, and this is what an emergency is. She also did that. Okay. Then her emails were triaged for her. She knew what she needed to take care of right away. She knew what she could postpone for a little bit. And she also said, hey, it may take me a couple of weeks to get back to you if it's a just reporting thing, okay? Because I get 100 emails a day. She also worked in a queue, and she put some boundaries on that, because people would just stop by to say, oh, how was your weekend? Which is good. You need some of that at work. You do need that, or it becomes really awkward. But you don't want it so intrusive that you can't get your work done, right? So she put a sign on the outside of her cube that said, I may look like I'm here from 3 to 5, but I am working and trying on a deadline and need that time to myself. So please don't interrupt me during this time. Be happy to talk to you about anything else during this time. She thought she'd get a lot of pushback from that. And what she saw was other signs show up on other cubes. So and think about, just some boundaries you could set that help you get your job done, but also keep you social to some degree. Break projects into small steps. When you do that, you get a dopamine hit for each small step, which keeps you chemically motivated. So dopamine is the neurotransmitter in the brain that we get pleasure from. It's connected to all addictions, but all pleasure also. And every time you go, woohoo, you get a dopamine hit. Every time you check something off your to-do list, you get a dopamine hit. When you have a long-term project and you're not going to get the reward for 6 months, that's not long. That's too far away to motivate you chemically. But if you break it into small chunks and you reward yourself, woohoo, for each chunk, then you get a dopamine hit, which keeps you chemically motivated for the long term. Okay. Delegate. A lot of us can't delegate because there's nobody to delegate to, but we can collaborate, and we forget to do that. Collaborate means one of the people you work with does something better than you, and they could teach you, and you do something better than them, and you could teach them. So collaborate with people, and also be willing to compromise. You do not have the one right way of doing something, even though you think you do sometimes. And if you have the one right way of doing something, then you also will think you're the only one who can do it right. That means you're doing everything. So yes, it'll take your grandchildren 20 minutes to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you can make it in 5. But guess what? You got to sit down for that 20 minutes. Okay, so think about letting go of control of things that really aren't that important. Here we are to control. And so what I'm talking about here is acceptance. So let me be clear what acceptance isn't. It isn't I like something and it isn't that it's okay with me. That's not what it means. It means it is what it is. So how many of you are people who talk to the car in front of you in traffic? Anybody? Okay. So does it ever change the traffic? No.
No.
Does it, what's it do to your blood pressure when you get angry at the guy in front of you? Okay. It increases your blood pressure. Average St. Louisan drives 30 minutes to work and 30 minutes home. That's an hour a day of elevated blood pressure if you stay angry the whole time. So if you accepted it, again, it's not that you like it and it's not that it's okay with you. It just is what it is. If you accept that traffic in St. Louis sucks, then you can choose your response. And this is very powerful. When you choose your response, you can, put on a podcast, put a book on tape, one of those books on tape. You can sing it, turn up your music, sing like a rock star. You can take an alternative route. All of a sudden you have all these options, right? And the guy in front of you, no matter how close you get to his bumper, it doesn't change him at all. Okay. So thinking about acceptance. And if you're trying to control people, places, or things, and you're trying to get somebody to see, get somebody to understand, get somebody to hear who doesn't want to, you're going to be really frustrated, and that's going to cause you stress. You can flip your negative thinking. Easiest way to do this is to practice gratitude. Doesn't have to be complicated. So listing things you're grateful for in a journal, sharing them with somebody at the end of the day. I know people do a grateful jar in families where all year long they have a Post-its by the jar and they put in what they're grateful for that day. And at the first day of the next year, they read all those things. I like to do it in the car again. I just mute my radio and start my grateful list when I get in the car. So lots of ways to do that. Think about including gratefulness. And if you want to deeper dive on your gratefulness, say why you're grateful for that thing. And it can be simple. I'm grateful for chocolate every week just because I like it. Okay. I'm, grateful for air conditioning on a hot day. I'm grateful for my grandchildren. I'm grateful for the love of a good man. So it can be really easy, but it can be meaningful too. Perfection. I am on a campaign to get rid of perfection. There's no such thing. Perfection by definition means you never make a mistake. Good luck with that. Okay. It's just a setup to fail. You will fail if you try not to make a mistake. And probably if you're not making mistakes, you're not stretching in any way. Okay. You're not learning. So instead of that, what I encourage you to practice is excellence. Excellence is I made a mistake. I learned from it. I did better. Okay. I made a mistake. I learned from it. I did better. So think of babies learning to walk. They get up, they fall down, they get up, they fall down, they get up, they fall down. We never say to a baby, oh my God, you've fallen 40 times, give up, you're never going to walk. You don't have it right. Right? We go, come on, you can do it. This is called encouraging self-talk, right? If we did this to ourselves every time we made a mistake, okay, what'd you learn? What are you going to do next time? Okay, right? If we were more accepting, we would fail our ways to success too, because all those babies learn to walk, right? So think about that. And then clean up your act. This term here means get rid of those acute stressors as soon as you can so they don't become chronic and cause you to have the cortisol drop, immune system drop. This is my last slide. The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over the other. So as Ariana Huffington's mother told her, darling, you have the clicker. Why are you watching the scary movie? Change the channel. So quit saying scary things in your head, change the channel, right? Questions or comments?
I just wanted to add that one of the things that consistently lowers my stress is to get outside and walk barefooted in the grass or, someplace that literally grounds me.
Mm-hmm.
Even walking barefooted in my home will lower my anxiety. And that was such a surprise to me.
I've heard of that before, yeah.
Because it's such a simple fix.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do that 15 minutes a day, your adrenaline will come way down.
Yeah. Meditation, another good thing. All the apps right now have lots of free things. My favorite's calm.com. But there's Insight Timer, Headspace. There's one called Breathe to Relax, I think. And all of them have free stuff. I like Calm just because I like the way they separate things out. Like they have meditations for children, meditations for anxiety, meditations for pain, meditations for goal setting, habits, all kinds of things. They have master classes, which are basically podcasts. I like also that they have like a 3-minute body scan. Y'all got 3 minutes, let me tell you. And it make a difference if you did a 3-minute body scan. You'd be surprised. And then they also have a 25-minute body scan if you got time for that, right? So you can choose what you have time for instead of that, well, I can't exercise because I don't have 30 minutes. Do you have 5? Go take a 5-minute walk. You have to get it in somehow. So I like those a lot. They have sleep stories. They have anxiety reducing ones, depression, managing depression, all kinds of things in all of them really. You can choose the one you like. They're about 60, I know Calm's about 65 a year. You can get it Groupon sometimes for 35. They make great gifts, by the way. Those meditations make great gifts. They're on your phone, so you can take them anywhere you go. Anybody
I
else?
listen to Inside Timer every day. I use
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people really like Insight Timer. Yeah, I've heard good things about that. And Headspace, I've heard good things about.
I love that you have indicated to manage your energy. You know, you hear about that every once in a while, but it's usually time management
Mm-hmm.
and blocking. But energy makes so
Yeah.
much sense.
Yeah. And you can increase your physical energy, by the way. It's depleted and increased. You can increase it with water, food, sleep, exercise, and breathing right. Now, remember, 80% of us hold our breath when we read our email. This was a stat from an IT person. She discovered she was holding her breath when she read her email. And she thought, it's probably just me. So she did research. Turned out 80% of us hold our breath when we read our email. When you hold your breath, you kick in the fight or flight response. It means you're kicking in cortisol. Okay. It's already in your system too long. You don't need it. So just to post it on your computer that says breathe, right? Simple. And you may be finding you're getting fatigued because of that. How much email do you read? And I don't know about you guys, but I get novels for email sometimes, and you could die reading your email holding your breath. I'm just saying, if you're sighing or yawning, you need a breath. Okay, that's a sign you need a breath.
I'll have to pay attention. I never heard that before.
Yeah, that was in Ariana Huffington's book Thrive, filled with research, by the way, on jobs and stress. And so I just wanted to let you know that we're part of Show Me Hope, which is a crisis intervention FEMA grant funded program for anybody having any COVID issues. So I just like to share this information with you. We can do some crisis counseling along with lots of other agencies in town. And then this is my contact information in case you need to get a hold of me, connie.fisher@mha-em.org. And then this is our office phone number. We're obviously working remotely, but we are checking our voicemail every day. I'm on call this week to check the voicemail. If you leave a message for me, though, LaDonna Haley will get back to me and give me the message. She's the other person taking the call. So please feel free to do that. And if you wanted to book a seminar for whoever you work for, then I could also do that. We're doing them all remotely, obviously, right now. So any
Well, thank
questions?
you. Anybody want to unmute?
I just want to thank you for this, and hopefully I can take some of these away and learn not to hold my breath while I read my email.
Yeah. Just breathe, right? Sigh.
While we've been sitting
yawn.
here, I got 50 emails in my inbox, so.
I'm saying. The world will live if you don't get them all answered. I'm just saying.
I know.
You can also turn your work email off on your days off. Look at it on Sunday night. If you really have to get anxious about it, you don't need to spend your life at work.
It is
Even
true.
asking people to triage your email in the subject
That's
line
good.
has to be a huge.
I like
I
that.
love that. Yeah.
I loved that too when somebody gave me that. Well, and somebody else told me they send themselves an email at the end of the day that's all caps that says, "This is your last email. You can quit looking now." I love that. I got that this week. Somebody gave me that this week. So that's great. He goes, "Yeah, it's all caps too."
Connie, would you repeat those email subject lines? Because I got quick question, need immediate action, but there was a third one.
quick question, need immediate action, need your decision.
Okay.
Like if you're a manager and they need you to sign off on something. And you can kind of think about what kind of emails you get. The other thing about, you can kind of set up, well, it depends on what you do. So like in private practice, I learned, I was doing like 2-hour sessions with people on the phone and not getting paid for it. And what and I wasn't having a life. So I went to a seminar and they said, what you can do is say, if this is an emergency and only if this is an emergency, you may call me at. But not only that, but what I had to learn to do is in my intake, I had to explain what an emergency was. Because what somebody thinks is an emergency and what you think is an emergency may be totally different things. People were calling me or paging me to tell me that, that they got a new job. That's not an emergency, right? So they could have left that on my voicemail. So once I explained that, it made a difference. And this was interesting too. The person that was doing the training said to charge for your phone time. And I thought, oh, I was a social worker. That just didn't feel right to me, charge for your phone time. And I thought, well, okay, I'm going to try it. So I told them I'm going to be I was charging $100 an hour at the time. So I said, I'm going to charge 25 minutes for a 15-minute phone call. If you go over that, it'll be another 25 and so forth. Interesting. One, they thanked me for it. They said they felt guilty calling me, and that way they didn't feel guilty because they were paying for it. Two, they were done in 15 minutes. People came prepared. They knew what they wanted. They got it, and they were off. And it was like, whoa. I mean, my calls dropped dramatically. So sometimes setting whatever your job is up the right way, like, here's what you can expect from me. Here's what I expect from you. Here's the conditions under which you can call me for an emergency. Here's things you can just put in my voicemail, so that you're kind of triaging and setting it up so that you have the best chance of not being overloaded and dumped on. And helping professionals are terrible about this. We tend to take everybody on and keep asking, we don't set some boundaries for ourselves, which means we get depleted and I'll be back doing compassion fatigue. You don't want that. Okay. Anything else? Any mental health questions? Like, what is bipolar anyway? I mean, any mental health questions?
Connie, I really, once again, cannot express enough gratitude for your doing this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thanks. You're a good group.
Fantastic, Connie. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Great.
Thanks, Connie. And it was nice seeing everybody's faces.
Yes, it really was. And the old PWA people, I'm not a member anymore and I'm going to miss it. But yeah, I'm glad to see your faces again.
We miss you.
I know. I'm retiring at the end of the year. So, but yay.
Does that mean that you don't want to do this anymore? Because I'm happy to have you back.
I'm going to be doing this for MHA as kind of a side, like as their contracted speaker while they're training the other person. And I think to fill in when they get overwhelmed, because we get certain times of the year, we get more seminars than other times.
Right.
So
okay,
I'll do that, but I just won't work as much, obviously.
Well, thank you again. And thanks everybody for coming this morning. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Lisa. This was great.
Thanks
Hope
for
to see you
setting it
soon.
up, Lisa.
Yeah, of course.
Have a great day.
Have a great day,
Yeah.
everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.